Here we are, Bomb Squad Psych, episode 2.
Bomb
Talking here with
Squad.
Elliot, the most base therapist I'm aware of. We're here today to talk about on the second episode. We're here not dressed alike to talk about the gentrification of disability and is disability becoming an accessory, and what does that entail?
And I already
Um,
told Adam before we started recording this that I'm hashtag gentrify everything is tattooed on my back with Dave
exactly.
Chappelle in white face, and his hands are in the blessed. So I will be the yes mental illness. You can identify with whatever mental illness you want because this is the essence of mental illness, which is it's a societal construct with a deep history of authority abusing this category to oppress people, and so thus in real life, in besides just this argument, I go with people who identify
Mm,
with certain mental illnesses, and I'll talk it through via
yeah,
their self-identification rather than
totally.
a true disability. So this
And
is this is the debate.
I honestly, here's where the debate is going to get a little less interesting, is that I do certainly agree with you in that regard, that going with people as in a therapist perspective through this self-identified woes of them. Let's just in my opinion, let's really play the devil's advocate of, let's say that you have some clients that are the worried well, the definition of people who may or may not actually have any formal diagnoses, or for that matter, experience disability on the debilitated level.
Yes,
Um,
this
that
happens quite a lot.
and that no, and that's what I'm saying. And from what I was hearing before, what you were saying is that it's not that isn't key. Like, them being aware of this is not key to them receiving therapy and becoming better. Because is it of your opinion that that some people, I mean, I don't want to say grow out of it, because I think that's giving it less importance that it deserves. But do you think people sometimes come to appreciate, not appreciate, that's the wrong word, but come to deal with their issues and to ameliorate their symptoms in a way that, I don't know, that is where they're not keeping themselves down with the debilitation talk of perhaps a TikTok diagnosis?
Uh, I would say I come from like a very deep phenomenological perspective that I don't quite believe that there's people out there that are just like really happy go lucky every time that couldn't work through problems because we're all working through uh
Certainly.
problems. I think the gentrification of disability debate, ultimately what we're going to get to is the reality of the mental health world. What is the true nature of mental health treatments individually,
Hmm.
in schools, which is what the DeBoer, I think that's just how you pronounce his name,
Yeah.
the DeBoer
James
article,
DeBoer,
which
yeah.
is the gentrification of disability. Um, and should severe mental illness be prioritized?
Should severe mental illness be
Right.
prioritized, and should we also simultaneously have a kind of a hawk eye to the more, I don't know, let's call it like the establishment conflation of disability and aspirational personality quirks? And I think that is something that we can also, we can have two minds of. And so that's why my argument is really that the conflation in media and diagnostic wise of a lot of disability, like the example that Dubois uses in the article for autism, I think is just a prime example of it. Whereas, again, the in 2013, Asperger's had been eliminated for, in my opinion, valuable stigma reasons, and just it got added to like the spectrum as the whole, the accordion autism spectrum disorder. And I think that's very positive. What I don't think is positive is that the I don't know, just like the open musings in the New York Times or any of these giant publications that have such sway
Right.
about how, oh gosh, if, oh, Obama is certainly autistic from this, that, and the other reasons. And I believe that that very obnoxious diagnostic happy guy who's never met people who diagnoses celebrities. I
Is
wrote a
that a
story
real
with him.
thing somebody said once?
No, no, certainly this is something
Someone
where
said
I mean,
Obama is autistic or could be autistic.
Obama is severely autistic by a couple of these metrics. And again, these are anecdotal, and this isn't like what my argument is centered around. I feel like it's very easy to
Wait,
veer
did they really say
into.
that in the New York Times, or is this like a
No, 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 no,
possibility?
no. This was in the New York Times of a person. His name is David. I want to say David Zustra or something, but that's
Oh
definitely
wow.
wrong. I will add the link to the description. But someone who, again, this is just to point to the example that there is an article that is musing over some idiosyncrasies or some seemingly autistic traits that are suddenly conflated to not only the entire autistic community, but definitely painting the light that this is the secret sauce that gave Obama the wonderful Harvard-led life that he had to be a fake Marxist for pussy in his 20s, and then to continue to be one of the worst neocon. I'm sorry, not neocon, but just neolib bomb droppers. And I really think that this is what goes back to the argument, because again, I'm not trying to get lost in conservative frivolous anecdotes about
That's
this
not a
person said this
frivolous
thing.
anecdote.
No, no, no,
I'm starting to shake here in terms of my position as like I'm starting to wonder if maybe I shouldn't have got that hashtag
so
gentrify
here's
everything tattoo.
the tattoo is always removable. It's only
Yeah,
$6,000 a session, 6,000
yeah,
quid.
true.
And but no, but it just goes to show that, like, for Mitt Romney, for example, like the most Mormon, stilted, awkward, traditionalist man in the world, like, because he said lemonade, the lemon wet drink aid, I love it. And it's like, because the man's robotic, he's autistic, and we could glean something from his brand of autism to be able to help us do what? Be one of the most uncharismatic Mormons in the world? I don't know. Like, what they are spelling out. Like in Dubois, he has a fantastic example in his article about the computer programmer who said, that without my autism, I don't think I'd be able to be doing the things I'd be able to do, and wouldn't have been able to pick it up and learn as quickly and have the hyperfixation over it. And again, what is the point of these articles but to obviously just point in the direction of that this is kind of just a quirky superpower that allows
Autism
you
is my
to.
superpower. Isn't that the phrase?
Yeah, no, exactly. And whether or not the representation be in the again, the anecdotal, the Big Bang Theory with their adorable style of misogyny and autism that is okay as long as they're nerds contributing to science. I don't know. I don't know, again, going back to the examples of just these musings and op-ed pieces that are kind of like, again, not only conflating autism and quirky personality traits, but what this does is that if there's more space dedicated to this, they're just like us styles of articles about disability and specifically autism, for example, there's less room for the people who obviously can't advocate for themselves, for the people who are much more severely impacted by their disability and who obviously deserve the limelight, who are the people who
Right.
actually deserve the things that we truly don't give them. And obviously there's a reason why it doesn't do that, because it would just obviously just reflect so much bullshit that has allowed a person who doesn't have the proper care they need, or is simply doesn't live in a society that is well for them at all and doesn't treat them well and doesn't actually have activities and proper infrastructure and medical care and health care and psychological care that really helps them at all.
So you're
And
saying we live in a society?
you're saying we live in a society. What I'm saying also is that not only is that this kind of pap that goes along with the autism is kind of a superpower, is that it lets all of these idiosyncrasies and autistic traits, these maladaptive traits for some people, just kind of get brushed off as again, that's just your fun superpower, versus the malaise and the things that capital does to us, that it kind of can get brushed under the self-identification, you're very valid, get in there champ style of diagnosis, which again is kind of just letting it run rampant with it's a positive thing and you should want this, leaving behind the media narrative 10-15 years ago that that vaccines cause autism, and autism was just used as even worse of a figurehead for the bad thing you don't want your kid to ever become. And if you eat whole foods and don't take vaccines, your kid will not be autistic, by the way.
So there's this kind of paradox happening, Ben, which is, like you said, 10, 15 years ago, this idea autism is the worst thing that can happen to you, and then it's like,
the worst brain
obviously
rot. Your kid's
worst.
fucked.
Yeah, then something kind of occurred where everybody, the Geist has got together, all, Napoleon's ghost and God and Easter Bunny. They did a mind meld, and they said, where are we moving this Geist, fellas?
Yeah,
And
they had
then
a Discord
and
server.
they had a Discord server. They all had a Discord server, and so autism became less of a stigma, and they said, we're not going to stigmatize it. And now you get New York Times articles that says, oh yeah, maybe Obama has autism, which is
And maybe
totally
that's a
silly.
good thing. That's
And
the
maybe
bottom
that's a
line,
good
is that
thing.
maybe that's a good thing. Maybe there is some
Right.
inexplicable thing we can learn from that. And that's the problem, I mean, with disability in general, that one, to minimize it, and then two, to kind of infer that there's some sort of superpower that could burst us from our boring day-to-day lives to just give us some
Right.
spice and some meaning and some excuses to be a little rude, and maybe I'm just autistic, I don't know. But just like this is something that I've read from many of people who are much. I'm a psych student, I'm not a therapist, I'm not anything, from people who actually have experience and clinical practice and this and that, where I think the quote that comes up the most often is usually symptoms do not mean disorder. And I think that is just kind of key right there. And I think the pathologizing of one's symptoms that are, again, in my opinion, a lot of them sown materially and from the woes of capital and the alienation therein, I think that those properties kind of easily get swept under the we're just in the big autistic community bubble, instead of the actual reflection it kind of deserves. Which, again, this is not putting down any type of community that people want to build upon some self-identity and whatnot. That is good thing, very good thing. The fact that we've gone from Jenny McCarthy style autism scaring to maybe everyone's autistic and it's a superpower.
So
And
this is like the
like that, like
dialectics.
I'm glad we've
We're,
made progress.
we're
Made
talking
progress
about the
here.
dialectics of it at this point, right?
Yeah,
Which is like,
truly.
we had feudalism, and then luckily the bourgeoisie came and said, no more feudalism, fellas. But it's not over yet.
That's exactly what happened. Yeah.
Because while it's nice that we have iPhones, because the bourgeoisie had a worldwide revolt and is now in charge, there's still some problems. So now that disability has become at least part of the discourse and not totally stigmatized, and you're not a pariah.
Yeah, not technically.
This
But now it's just a snackable little option for the bourgeois. I mean, for everyone, really.
And it's funny how it does kind of go back to the bourgeois in terms of, like, if you talk about world history development as like the bourgeois democracy is, the state. Is it surprising that disability takes this same path?
Exactly. It's just kind of getting whipped around the on rails carny ride that is the structure. And I think that's very interesting. But something that I do want to attack in this talk about it.
Yeah.
Is,
What's next? That's the question, because as my hashtag gentrify everything tattoo says, that we're done. It's been gentrified. It's a nice little snack for me. We don't need to prioritize people with severe mental illness. And I think I say this lightly, but one thing I want to point out is people with severe mental illness, oftentimes there is a question, especially in the US, of how to help people with severe mental illness. And they do often struggle to find resources that help them.
So that's why I'm pushing back, is because what is more media polished? A conventionally attractive Asperger's woman who got valedictorian at Harvard 7 years ago, or the guy or the kid who who can't get his ears touched, or else he's gonna have a fucking meltdown for a day. And he genuinely has sensory issues that don't allow him to advocate for himself or anything of that matter. And my question to you is, who's easier to get on camera and to give a script? Upper middle class person who has who certainly does have autism and is disabled, but to a significant less regard. And that Overton window shifting is kind of a feature, I'm sorry, is a bug, not a feature of this new positive era of people who are disabled, who actually are getting content and who are getting content created about awareness and about pushing good communities, where that's fine and dandy, but unfortunately it's at the behest of the already marginalized and further downtrodden, which I think
So
we can
this
both
is
agree
like
upon.
the TED Talk format is something like this.
Mm.
I have a disability, but through my effort,
Here's how
I have
meritocracy
I've have yeah, I've had overcome my disability.
Yeah, exactly.
And now I used to have this disability and was disabled, and now I have now I do this or that. Or something that comes to mind for me is
I've willed it.
it's
Elliot, you've touched on something really important that I really want to nail down for a second. Put a pin in that if you can
okay.
remember it.
Okay.
Is that is exactly it. You willed it. You have the disorder, but you've willed it, and then here you are doing the thing you needed to do, and it's the individualized lib approach to everything. So obviously the people who aren't debilitated and don't have people talking to them and don't have psychotic breaks and this and that, obviously they're a little bit more they're a little bit more on the side of thinking that this is a quirky disorder that helped me get the juice that made me become the person I am today. That's what I wanted to say, is that it was just the prime
Yeah, but I mean
individualism
mental
shit.
disability, but also physical disabilities as well. I think
Mm.
these are often said in the same breath, and that's because we have a kind of society that wants to scientize the mind and thought as best as they can. But
Well,
it's
of course
not
they do, because then you don't have to appreciate any of the material conditions or sociological conditions that brought that to the point. And you just are able to, move the number around and say that there is a causal reason for it. So shut up.
Yeah, I mean, one thing that comes to mind in terms of I was saying like the TED Talk format, I had a
Mm.
disability, but now I'm thriving.
I
This
beat
is like
it.
this inspiration story, right? So naturally we move from, okay, we're no longer stigmatized, but now we have an inspiration story. So Adam, one thing I want to talk about with you is the tendency to hire people with Down syndrome as
Mm.
actors and actresses, to sell a product or be a model for a brand. And this is
Mm.
putting people with a severe disability front and center. So what is this kind of overcoming this tendency to have less severe mental illness kind of be front and center?
Well, I think this is more of like the just a cynical part of the wheel of capital and commodification of representation and multiculturalism, which is that rather than this disabled person being on television to be a act and do whatever they want, or genuinely be an advocate for disability, or just be a fucking extra, whatever they want. Rather, they are being cynically used as a marketing scheme to plug diversity, to plug look at our Down syndrome person that we are wielding to be able to sell more phones or grocery cleaner or whatever.
Right, this is not
And
actually helping Down syndrome though,
no,
probably.
no, it's another part of
Or
the, it's
is
another
it?
part of the, it's a part of my original argument of the cynical nature of using autistic people. Everyone really doesn't like this phrase, but I like it. The higher functioning people, the people who are less debilitated by their disorder, by putting them front and forward, the dialectic exchange of, yes, that's good for those people getting it out in the world, but it's obviously bad because it is pushing the further marginalized to the back of the line. Similar with the Down syndrome people, is that it is, yes, dialectically that's something right there, that these people are getting technically representation, but it's not actually representation. It's just a really, really cynical marketing ploy
This
for
also goes to the
representation. Like,
big question of identity, representation, and hashtag awareness,
well, of course, I mean,
right?
it's the lib
From the Deborah
representation
article as
is
well.
going to eventually make us learn our way into a better world. The the idea that that everyone just needs to be, everyone's in good faith, and we just need to, you know, learn a bit more, and then as soon as we're able to make that rousing argument, boom, bada bing, you know, everything's over, we won.
Are you
That's the
saying,
thing.
wait, are you saying we can't learn and see now we like this, it's like a rabbit hole. Now, are you saying you can't learn your way into a better world? Then I thought my podcast slash social media post was gonna change the world,
I thought it
Adam.
was going to change the world, and now that we're not doing it, it is over. It is finite. You know, why would you eat when you could, when you're just going to get hungry? No, but I know, big broad question,
I
big
guess
broad
you I
statement
guess you need to
here.
do something else. Oh yeah, sorry. Go
No,
on.
I said I know that's a big broad statement here, but that West Wingification, lib understanding of the world is prevalent. So, you know, sorry to break it to the people who are the base people who are already watching this, but lib representation politics isn't class fucking politics. And if anything, it's just the cheapest band-aid of all. And because it's the most cynical band-aid of all. And then that's where I think where we both are going to always agree in this regard is that disabled people get commodified, whether it be identity wise for the bourgeois to just be able to have some pepper in their personality, or by the actual infrastructure of capital to be able to, you know, hold up the cell phone that they're holding in their flipper hand, you know, to be able to put it up their head. And it's exploiting a person. You know, they get their little bit of money and they go off and live their life. But the company definitely just checked off a box that said that we had the disability hire. That's good. Now we just need to hire 1 million more of those autistic mailroom kids, and we'll be fine. But
So what my hashtag gentrify everything tattoo is whispering to me. It's like it's crawling,
yeah,
it's
you're gonna
crawled up
unveil
my
it
back.
you're gonna unveil it
It's whispering. It says,
in the
and it's
last five
saying,
minutes.
Elliot, tell Adam that when we have more representation, then people will start to realize they need to solve problems, and then everything will get better. Right? Once it's on the phone ad.
Well, of course, once everyone is aware of the plight, then the action will come, right? That is the argument that I've made 1 million times over, and that I still hold in some regard. But it's at the behest of the marginalized getting further marginalized in lieu of having no representation and getting further to the back of the line, yada yada, what we've been discussing. And that is why it cannot be celebrated in a way wholeheartedly that I would want to celebrate something, because I feel like we're kind of treating this as if, you know, if all our material needs were gone, then boom, representation. That's all the shit I would care about. It's like, let's fix media now. We got this. Everyone can eat. Everyone can live and shit in harmony. That's fine.
So Adam, can I give
But
you
we're not
a
there.
can I give you a serious hard counter argument to the
Yes.
gentrification of
Counter
disability?
me up, please.
Okay, I want to. What exactly should high functioning disabled people do? In terms of there are people that can function and they have mental illness. Or to really kind of drive it home, there are children who can function but have severe depression or severe mental so they're dealing with something, or they're dealing with trauma.
Yeah.
So there is this whole group of people who are high functioning disabled people.
Yeah.
Does this debate relate to them at all?
It
Like,
does. It certainly does relate to those people, because again, who, like, look at like there's a couple studies and surveys, if you give a shit enough about surveys and and the self-reportedness of it, and if it's valid at all. But there's a lot of information about the people who take care of disabled people the most are disabled people. The people who are dealing with this, who need to be dealing with this and advocating more, are the people who know the plight, but who can function and who possibly have some socioeconomic means to do so. And much like a lot of other things, when in advocacy, it is understanding who is impacted by this the most, and to, again, keep everyone not in thoughts and prayers, but in action. And for events, you know, again, there's many events that are being raised that are doing incredible things for helping people out with rent. And, you know, rent parties are classic and helping people get by. And I can't tell you how many fucking Instagram accounts and Twitter accounts there are for mutual aid. It's amazing.
what you're saying is that high functioning people with disability can help low functioning people with
Yeah,
disability. And
exactly.
there's this, I think there's a perception that the able
So there already
people will
are. We
fix,
shouldn't, let's not pretend like
right.
there aren't coalitions and mutual aid things that are helping people on a lower function. I'm saying on like a broader level, there needs to be a step up.
Yeah. I think I came into this debate thinking like, you're pitching to the people who are not disabled to help. So there's people who are not disabled, who have not been marked with disability.
Mm,
And then there's this group of high functioning people marked with disability, but in fact are quite able in a lot of ways.
mm.
And then there's this low functioning disability. So this kind of changes my mindset a little bit of what you just mentioned, which is people with disability are often helping people with disability.
Of course,
Right.
they're either doing that or they're family members who have grown up with people in their direct household who have disabilities, and empathy kind of comes when you are face to face with suffering and when you're face to face with, a lot of things that capital and disability brings. But
I have the sublation now. The although this is not on sublation media, sorry, Doug.
sorry, Dougie, it's
It,
okay.
it,
I like the
it,
name, and that's
he
okay.
didn't like
I
that. He
like
didn't
it.
like Bomb Squad Psych, but that's no. We love Doug Lane here. We're
Yeah,
we're Doug.
no,
We're Doug Lane
I
fans here.
fall asleep to Doug Lane's sweet, supple voice every single night.
But I think we sublated this argument a little bit. If you're a high functioning disabled person, you should help low functioning disabled people. So
Yeah,
this is like, so I think this is a nice, if you want to label yourself as disabled, if I want to label myself as disabled, I could say I have ADHD. I've been diagnosed with ADHD as a child.
as
I
have
could
I.
say I could say I have ADHD. Although when I did say, do I have autism? They went through the checklist. They said no. I said, well, maybe I do. I'm like kind of like socially different. And they said, do you have this? And I was like, well, no, you don't have
Yeah,
autism.
tendency is not important.
um, uh, so if I wanted to say I have ADHD, this would then give me a responsibility. Okay, you're disabled. Go and help someone with a, a less functioning disability.
Well, and again, this is just, and I think it's, it's a little more in depth than that, because there's so many mutual aid and even institutional places that are
Mm,
functioning at all times that people don't think of. But again, your local food bank, your local neighbor who needs help, who you wave to, and
right,
kind of like turn your head because they're a hoarder or something. These are the people. This is the and again, this is the only individualization type of argument that I'll make, where I'm giving prescriptive anything, but it really does help. Like your neighbors surrounding you, your surrounding neighbors in the garden, give them a hand. Fucking talk to them. Like it's a basic form of human communication that capital has been sucking dry from us for the past while, and I'm sick of it. Um, help someone. But
right.
aside from that, everyone should help people, obviously, but I think I was more referring to the high functioning disabled people who have platforms already, are making content, and are making content towards, obviously, disability studies and disability content. And again, that should be it, because I feel like there's way too many awareness type videos. If you guys want to think about the awareness area of breast cancer awareness and X cancer awareness and autism awareness and whatnot, that really just flock feathers and don't really provide the nitty grit of what actionable things can happen institutionally and individually. And the only preach that I will ever do for individual action in that regard, because for the most part, I'm pretty apathetic about it, outside of like actually, just obviously voting out of sheer anxiety of it ever helping, and you know, helping people around you. I think those are the two things. That being hyper online and trying to advocate and maybe organizing some things if you actually can. Again, that's what I can do with my work schedule. I don't know about you, because again, in the end,
Are you saying I
this
should
is
help
pricing.
other people?
Are you saying that mutualism is going to solve everything? No, it's not, obviously, but that is definitely going to help your neighbor, and that's a pretty big chain reaction. And that's in this effete world of podcasting and helping
Right.
people on an individual level like you do, Elliot. And I applaud you. Um,
But it's quite systematized. The way I help people is quite systematized.
No,
and you're
exactly.
just
You help people
yeah,
systematize. You help people in a very systematized
which
way,
is not the
and
same
you
thing as like going into society in
no,
general, helping people, right?
no, not at all. And again, that's the thing is that this shouldn't be pushed as an ultimatum because I think that's a very unfair thing to do on the working class. Obviously, it is if you have the means and you're sitting playing video games for 5 hours a day, fucking do something for 1 hour of that. It's fine. The world is going to be awful afterwards. Don't worry. And we know that. But but hey, you might meet someone and you might get a really good brisket in 2 days, or you might get some gross old lady cookies and a cigarette, and be grateful. It's fine. People, again, in the words of the late Michael Brooks, compassionate to people, ruthless to systems. And I think that's that is the ultimate message of the pod, is that whether or not, again, my argument being that the conflation of disability, capital D disability, and aspirational personality quirks in the media and diagnosis wise is a negative feature, that's kind of a negative rift that's happening in society. um Regardless of that, I think we can all agree that
This
help and be helped, and give a shit.
Yeah, this specter, I think, is the reason why I wanted to even take up this side a little bit. Was
Mm,
I had this specter of somebody goes up to a high functioning disabled person and they say, or high functioning disabled, or high functioning autism, high functioning depression, whatever,
mm.
and says, you don't suffer.
No, and that's not
Right.
the argument. That's not what
Yeah.
any of us are saying at all. um what we're saying is that, or what I'm saying, I should
Hmm.
speak for myself, is that the media driven flow of and of just by sheer people get exposure, and there's only a certain amount of hours in the day and pieces of paper in the newspaper, that the higher functioning people are getting featured and getting and having more polished media interactions, and kind of creating the simulacra of disability, while the further marginalized continue to eat shit and continue to die in the streets and continue to not get any care, um, and not have any
Yeah.
of their material needs met, which obviously exacerbates everything they're going through.
Yeah, I
So
think that there is a tendency of high functioning disabled people or high functioning autism
yeah,
to basically stop it and look how high functioning I am. Aren't I good?
yeah, aren't I
And
good? Aren't I good bourgeois who want to reflect? Isn't this so easy and relatable? And I think that connection, it's so palpable to me, that I just feel I see way too many of those, of the teehee, this is very quirky. Aren't I just like you? Aren't we all just human, man? No, everyone is human, but some people have significant disorder that really impacts their life. And the kind of they're just like us celebrity mentality really goes down the rabbit hole of kind of in my opinion, logically, it kind of goes to everyone's just human and we're just experiencing our things through different lights and different ways, and we're just flowing and this and that. But it's like, no, if some people don't have medication, they will hurt themselves, they will fuck their lives up, they will kill people, they will be erratic, they will crash their car, they will fucking die. Like, this is not, I don't know, again, this is another part of the cynical capital brush over of, oh yeah, it's all autism and everyone's valid and it's a superpower, don't you worry, come on over here, everyone. But in reality, some people, let's say disability broader, not just autism, but some people really don't need that validity. Again, like, yeah, we know that we're valid, but I think Freddie Dubois says it perfectly in an interview that he has with some cats in sublation media, where he says, yeah, that's fucking valid, and I don't need to feel valid. I need medication so I don't ruin my life. And again, that really is a byproduct of the cheery, liberal, open arms, NIMBY people who wear their Patagonia and go to their farmers markets and walk at their 6'2" heights and look down upon the homeless and pretend like they're Rachel Maddow watching. But science is good,
oh, my
water is
dad
life
loves Rachel
sign,
Maddow.
is
That's like
fucking
his favorite.
is doing the justice. And because your dad's a lib, and that's understandable, 100%. You know, he thinks Maddow is the height of thought, and which is really unfortunate. But again, what can you do for people who are men of their time?
The best trivia is my dad is married now to a relative of Trotsky,
Is he
who
really?
also isn't, uh, who also is not a Marxist.
Oh, of course.
But the grandmother
That's
of
so pretty cool.
her remembers Uncle Leon coming to dinner one Berenstein, and they're Bernstein, but it was Berenstein before Trotsky. So Jew. That's a fun fact.
Yeah.
I try to read them Capital. They were not into it.
No, so
They were
you're
like
telling
they were
you're
like
telling me you went to a family gathering with Marx's Capital in your sweaty hand, and your family didn't respond well to
no,
it.
they had it. They had it on
Oh,
the no. That's the funnier part is they had a copy of it already, and I was like, hey, Capital,
perfect.
right?
Oh my God, that's so fucking funny. Yeah, no, I wish
Yeah.
my family or even extended family was that based at all. But
This
no,
is
but
this is Judaism, you know. As you know, the Jews run everything. Wait, don't say. Should we cut that out of
oh,
YouTube? Will they cut it? Will they give us a
are you
strike?
serious? That is gonna make us go up in the algorithm. Are you
All
serious?
right, now. Oh yeah, nowadays.
Every time
We'll put.
Stefan Molyneux says the N-word, he just goes up like a million ranks in the algorithm. No, I
Does
think
he
he's
do
banned
that on the
actually.
YouTubes? Does
No,
he?
no,
No,
no, he does.
he
That's one of the
doesn't.
triplets. But
That's a triplet, right?
so here's an interesting thing that I've always wanted to bring up with you is that the the signifiers that get shared by people who are validly concerned about censorship, so therefore they censor a lot of different words, and at some point unnecessary words, because there is no list that says this, they trip this, that word. So I feel like this overcompensation where people just like put such importance to themselves, and they like, and like people say don't say vaccine, they say v a sign yen you know ine,
Oh right.
and it's just so funny. And I think that is such a conservative meme that doesn't get clowned on enough. That is so fucking funny that they think they're all so ready to get shadow banned and whatever this fucking ridiculous thing that they all ascribe to why no one watches their shitty posts. It's like no one watches your shitty posts because you just had a screed in the middle of the night and then ended it with a racist thing. Like it's not funny. No one cared about it. But no, of course not. It's the shadow banning, and I have to fucking just everything has to be in code and this and that. And that's a funny thing that I think does not get talked about enough, because they all think they are just like in a goddamn spy movie, and it is. I mean, it's obviously just playing to their audience, so their audience also thinks they are in a spy movie, which is the whole point. But oh god, it's so funny. It's juicy. It's very juicy. Because what was it, 2013, when Asperger's was eliminated from
Mhm.
the diagnostic, and it was kind of just added. Asperger's was just added on the autism spectrum and whatnot, which is valid, and I think that's a fucking good move. um but again, what materially happened from it is is that I feel like, again, yada yada, kind of conflating superpowers, nerdy superpowers, with people who are getting the shaft. And it's just, again, it's so bad to see this constantly getting reverberated over and over and over again, and to just see through media how capital just cycles through every identity sphere to do it and to fucking sell shit. It's really fucked up.
Right.
The first time I ever noticed this cycle was when I was like 13, when vaporwave was a big thing on Tumblr and all the other, degenerate social media blogging sites. And I'll never forget. People were, were getting it printed themselves, and they were getting it shipped from China, this and that. And then suddenly Walmart had it in a line for a week, and Forever 21 did, and it made a pretty big impact in fashion. And fast fashion obviously got a hold of it, and then just kind of like made it blow up because it's simple and easy and stupid, and you're just wearing pastels with dolphins and a shitty 2D
This is exactly
background.
how I design all my books. By the way, I just use vaporwave.
You just use vaporwave shit.
I just like my last one is just a vaporwave guy going like this, dude. An ego in a
That is
hyperstate.
funny. I mean, there's a
Who I
reason.
didn't know was actually Hadrian's male lover. I didn't realize this
Oh,
until after it was
oh,
Antonius, who
that's
he
rad.
named a city in Egypt after. Hadrian
Wow,
also crushed the famous crusher of Jewish rebellion. Side note. Uh,
nice. No, I'm just kidding. But
I mean, to be fair, you know, it's the there were it was questionable everywhere in the ancient times when you're saying I'm the Messiah, don't pay taxes, crush the state. Actually, that's kind of based. Actually, I take that back.
yeah, I was gonna say
I'd be like,
Messiah.
okay, base, let's do it. And then we would have and then they fought them successfully for a while, and then they brought
Yeah,
all the legionaries, you know, all the, and then
they call it the cavalry. Yeah,
then they were in trouble once that happened. Once all
yeah,
the
of course.
for Hispania and Gaul and Britannia. Well, the Britannia Legion didn't crush them, but then they brought all the other ones.
Mm.
So
I think
fun
I think
Jewish
you would
rebellion
really.
fact.
I was gonna say, I think you would really do. I think you'd really love doing a history podcast. I think you'd really excel at it.
Bro, are you trying to push me out of this one? I just
No, I already I have I might have Alfie on the other line, so we could go in
you
and
have
push you right
Alfie on the
out.
other line.
He's been waiting.
You're gonna be like,
He's been
Alfie,
tapping
yo.
his little fucking loafer. He's been tapping it.
He's ready. He's ready to bomb
I
Sputnik
just
it.
assume he wears loafers. He looks like a man who wears a nice loafer.
I
But
said this to you, like he's mysteriously 6'4". Mysteriously.
yeah, no,
Like you see him and you're just
he
like, what the
definitely
fuck?
he definitely gives off
Anyway,
short king energy.
yeah.
And I've been told that every person I've ever met, every person I've ever dated, they always tell me, if I ever meet on the internet, they always tell me like, hey, I really expected you to be like, 5'9" or like 5'8" and whatnot. And you yourself, Elliot, you thought that I was a 5'8" king as well. And I
I
think
mean,
that is
I'm a 5'9" king myself.
exactly,
I'm
that's
not
fantastic. And you're living it. You're living on the throne, baby. And I just think that's so
short
funny.
king spring.
Yeah, we do have short king energy. No, but I'm a
But
6'5"
also 5'9",
myself.
that's the average height for like males. This mean height in
Yeah,
the world. So it's not.
don't be 6 foot and over. I don't recommend it. Your back is gonna be fucked. Your
My back's
equilibrium
fucked and I'm
off.
5'9", honestly.
Wow.
So anyway.
Do you what do you do about that? Do you
Oh no,
exercise? Do you more
yeah,
exercises? Do you plyometrics?
I do a couple stretches. I do a couple
Couple stretches.
stretches.
Do you what toys do you have? Are you a ball
I
roller?
specifically injured it though. But let's get back
Yeah,
to
sorry. Let's get back. Give people what they
let's
want.
get back.
But
We're not gonna be one of those we're not gonna be Red Scare. Just go on wherever we want.
That's I think if you're ever going to characterize Red Scare as going over anywhere, I think I'd characterize it as three different things before that. But that's just me. Yeah, no, we're not going to be Red Scare. We're going to talk about how bleached my asshole is right now. Which, by the way, it looks incredible. But no, we're not going to
Is
do
it
that.
really you really bleached your asshole?
No, I wouldn't
Is this a
dare.
side
No,
note? You
no. If
wouldn't
I'm
dare. Okay.
no, if I'm gonna do any grooming back there, I'm just gonna sit in a pool of Nair, like just in a kiddie pool, fill it up in my home, and just sit waist deep and just let it sit off, and probably eradicate my genitals at the same time. But it'll be worth it. So I really think that there is a lot of meat and a lot of interesting things to go on about how disability, now that it's being fully, or I should say accessible disability, now that it's being kind of wielded by capital in such a way, is it too also defeating the rightful place of the higher functioning disabled people who have content or who are just living their lives in regular everyday society, if their push is that it's eradicating disability, schizophrenia, autism, ADHD, everyone has their thing, man, and we're all just living in it. And maybe Obama has autism, maybe Ric Flair has autism, who knows? And again, this oneness, this liberal one, like pseudo oneness, that is just kind of a mask to not really address anyone's actual disorders or problems, and to treat it with just this, you're valid.
The essence of my argument
Please.
towards the essence of your argument, which is what is to be done, as many have said before. So what is to be done?
So for one, we're screeching into the ether on a podcast, and I think that is activism enough. No, but honestly, I think
I mean, like if you have
systemic
control, right?
I was just being cheeky, but obviously, I think what needs to happen is that there needs to be healthcare, first of all, which encompasses mental health care, and not even mental health care, but I think materials need to be met. So people who need care will receive care and can live more independently with their government housing. If they can't work, they can have unfortunately the bottom tier housing that will unfortunately have to happen, but they will not be on the street, and they will have care, and they will be actually a part of society in a way that isn't just shoved under the rug and yada yada. So what can happen is that, and what can also happen again is for any higher functioning disabled person who is making content out there, to engage a bit more and try to engage a bit more and to get more representation for the people who don't have the privilege to be able to get their life together enough to speak on a camera and to have a script and or just free will it and to say their heart and whatnot. That is something that if you have the means and you're already going towards disability studies, or I'm sorry, disability content and disability awareness, something to keep in mind. I think we all need, I think there needs to be more coalitions and more representation for the people who need the most help, which is going to towards your argument, which is people who have severe disabilities also need help.
Yeah. So that was the sublation midway through, which is like,
Yes.
if you want to have a high, if you say I have high disability, consider if you want to do disability advocacy, to take the time to pay attention to people with more severe disabilities.
Yes,
And
to also look in your community for the existing ones. You're not starting anything on your own.
So there's a couple of things. One is, of course, there's material needs need to be met for lower functioning people. And two, if you want to be part of the group of disability, if you have a high functioning disability, you can both say, this is I am visible. I really do struggle with this, and also don't forget about this other categorical aspect of disability, which is often forgot about.
Exactly. Don't forget about the people who actually need the care. And again, because legislatively, that's the first step, is to be able to get people out there to be able to actually show and advocate for have people advocate for themselves, I should say, people who can, with assistance or with whatever they need, to be able to put the face out there. Because I do think that is a soft spot, even for all the shit we talk about for local NIMBY liberals. If they see a disabled person who is not being used by the selling a Pop-Tart on the commercial, but who is actually genuinely giving a shit about their rights that they deserve and that they need, and is advocating for them and knocking on doors and this and that, I think that is actually some movable legislation that could happen locally for us all. And also something that I think is one of the only individual things that we could actually do, that is going to benefit people directly, immediately, and is quite immediate action.
Well, through the ancient science of dialectics, we've discovered the answer, right? But no, really, I mean, it seems like through talking about this, and we talked about this before, we talked about this extensively, actually. But via this kind of actual debate format, I feel like we did actually get somewhere.
I think so.
So
I think we got somewhere. And again, I feel like it's very easy to get lost in the sauce of bitching, like making this problem all about the degeneracy of culture and the kids are at it again and they're being very annoying, therefore societal collapse. And that's not the argument. That is the exact opposite of the argument. This is frivolous self-diagnosis is a symptom of something, and it's not because those darn kids and they are so bad. That's the exact opposite of what it is. And I think that's a very, very easy, edgy argument that I see getting made, and that is very easy to fall into, which is the individualized approach of they're bad because they did the bad thing, and it just makes sense to not like them. Versus versus looking at it from a structural approach of how is this impacting people through the diagnostic and the media landscape that is kind of widening its understanding and kind of making a bad simulacra of disability in general. When we talked about specifically tailored to autism, because it's in my opinion, a pretty topical subject.
Great. So on that note, now that the dialectical refinement has occurred, and you've brought back the original point, which is there is a massive kind of tendency to say disability includes Obama, and to stop there, and Mitt Romney. Right. This is not enough. This is not enough. This is not a good engagement with the idea of disability.
No, definitely not.
You should reach for a bit further than that.
Yeah, definitely not. And we will definitely continue to scratch the surface on this because again, only the tip of the surface. And
Yeah. All right.
yeah,
So
no
on that
problem.
note, wait. We need a better sign off than that.
You know, I really like the stay out of trouble, and then you say only good trouble. It's an old radio sign off from fucking God, I can't even remember.
All
But
right. So we're gonna do that then.
okay, so hold on, let's do a retake. Hold on, just all right there. So gentrification of disability, is disability an accessory debate in the box, in the bag, completed. That is episode 2 of Bomb Squad Psych. And I want to thank you so much, Elliot, for coming back. And I think we scratched the surface, and we are going to continue to delve into a lot of the reflections that are a lot of the concrete reflections of yada yada disability getting conflated with quirky personality traits. And with that, I say stay out of trouble.
Only good trouble, Adam.
Gotcha.